there, and welcome. Do you ever find yourself staring at a recipe or a measurement and your brain just kind of freezes up when it comes to metric conversions? Well, today, we're going to learn one super simple trick that turns those confusing conversions, specifically going from smaller units to larger ones, into something you can do in your head, seriously, in just a few seconds.
You know the situation, right? You're right in the middle of baking something awesome. The recipe calls for 1/2 kilogram of flour, but your kitchen scale, it only wants to talk to you in grams. It's such a common problem, but stick with me, because by the end of this little explainer, you'll solve this without even blinking. I get it. For a lot of us, converting units feels like a flashback to a pop quiz in math class. It just seems complicated, with all those zeros and decimal points flying around. But I'm going to let you in on a little secret. The metric system is actually designed to be incredibly easy, and we're about to crack the code. And here's that secret. The entire metric system, it doesn't matter if we're talking about grams for weight, meters for length, or liters for volume, it is all built on the number 10. That's it. It was designed that way on purpose, to be simple. Everything is just a matter of moving things around in sets of 10. And that is the key to our trick. So I want you to completely forget about doing any complex multiplication or division in your head. Instead, let's start thinking about these conversions as a little journey. A journey for the decimal point. All we have to do is figure out how many steps it needs to take and which way it's going. That's the whole game. Okay, this chart right here, this is our map. Let's think of it as a ladder. You can see the big units like kilo are way up at the top, and the tiny units like milli are down at the bottom. Every single step up or down this ladder is a power of 10. For today, we are only focused on climbing up this ladder, going from a smaller unit to a bigger one. And here is the single most important rule to remember. When you climb up that ladder, moving from a small unit to a large one, what you're really doing is dividing. But here's the cool part. You don't even have to think about division because the decimal point is going to do all the heavy lifting for us. So let's get right to it. I'm about to give you a simple process, a little rule that works every single time. Honestly, this is the only method you will ever need for converting smaller metric units into larger ones. Here it is in 3 simple steps. First, you find where you're starting and where you're going on our ladder. Second, you just count the steps, or the jumps it takes to get there. And third, you move your decimal point to the left for that exact number of jumps. That is the whole trick. See? Super simple. All right, enough talk. Let's actually see this thing in action. We're going to take a really common conversion, millimeters to meters, and we're going to apply our 3-step rule right now. Okay, so here's our first challenge. We've got 1,500 millimeters, and we need to figure out how many meters that is. First things first, where is the decimal point? Well, in a whole number like this, it's kind of invisible, hiding right at the very end. So we're starting with 1500 point. Now for step 2, let's count our jumps on the ladder. We're starting down at milli. We jump up 1 step to centi, that's 1, a second step to deci, that's 2, and a third step gets us to our base unit, meters. So that's 3 jumps up. And since it was 3 jumps up the ladder, our rule tells us we need to move the decimal point 3 places to the left. Just remember that. Smaller to larger, you're moving left. So, let's do it. We take our decimal from the end of 1500 and we jump it over 1, 2, 3 spots to the left. And it lands right between the 1 and the 5. Just like that, 1,500 millimeters becomes 1.5 meters. See, no calculator, no complicated math, just a little counting. Are you convinced yet? Let's do one more classic example just to really lock this in and prove this rule is basically foolproof. This time, let's go from grams all the way up to kilograms.
Here we go. The scale says 5,000 grams. We need to know how many kilograms that is.
And once again, let's find our starting position. The number is 5,000, and that invisible decimal point is sitting right there at the very end after the last 0. Okay, back to our ladder. This time, our starting point is the base unit, which is grams. Let's count our way up to kilo. We jump 1 step to deca, 2 steps to hecto, and a third and final jump lands us on kilo. So that's 3 jumps up, which means we know exactly what to do with our decimal point. And there you have it. We move that decimal from the end of 5,000, slide it over 3 spots to the left, and we get 5.0. So 5,000 grams is simply 5 kilograms. It really is that easy and that consistent every single time. So what's the big takeaway here? You didn't just learn a little math trick. you've actually gained a really practical, everyday superpower that makes all these measurements way less intimidating. If you remember just one thing from all this, let it be this little phrase. When you're going from a smaller unit to a bigger one, the decimal point just does a simple little dance to the left. Just count the steps and let it groove over.
So let's just recap the key points real quick. Converting from a smaller unit to a larger one, the decimal always moves to the left. How many places does it move? The number of jumps on our prefix ladder tells you exactly how many. And with that, you can now solve these common problems in a flash, whether in the kitchen, the garage, or anywhere else.
And that kind of leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? We just saw how understanding the simple base 10 system behind all those metric prefixes made a tricky seeming problem incredibly easy. So what other problems in our daily lives, math or otherwise, could become just as simple if we just took a second to understand the system at their core? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.